When this presentation was initially prepared, we incorrectly identified the Scan Document feature as an OCR document creation feature, when it is more accurately called a PDF document creation feature. When the Notes app creates a scan, it creates a PDF of the document, not a photo. VoiceOver's ability to read a PDF document is inconsistent. Sometimes it works and sometimes it does not. If you find that you are unable to read a document that you have scanned as a part of the note in a Notes app, you can use another app such as Seeing AI to read that document. We apologize for any confusion as a result of this error.
All right. So the Notes app started out as simply a note-taking app that would enable the user to keep simple notes. However, with the ever-exchanging sophistication of the iPhone and iPad hardware and the iOS operating system, the Notes app has grown in sophistication. Now, if you're blind or visually impaired, and I'm assuming that most of you on the phone fall into one of those two categories of either blind or low vision, you know that trying to jot down a quick note, putting together a quick to-do list or a shopping list, that can be pretty challenging. And then even if you can create such a note, handwriting it or whatever, you might not be able to read that note when you need it. So it can be even worse if that note happens to be relevant to a given document or something important that you need to keep that note attached to. So you need the ability to be able to take a note that you can later read or listen to, and you need the ability to quickly access both the note and anything that's relevant or attached to it. And to do that, you have to have things organized in such a way that you can find it. Today's session of Apple Exchange is intended to provide us all with an overview of the versatile Notes app so that you can have a better understanding of the tools that are available within it that you might use throughout your day. Okay. Now the Notes app is a native app that is included on all iPhones and iPads that are sold by Apple. You do not need to download it from the Apple Store. If you don't seem to find it on your home screen, go to the app library and then you'll be able to find it there alphabetically under the letter N. So let's dive in and discuss how we can use this app. First, creating a note. When you open up the Notes app, at the bottom of the screen, there is a toolbar. And in the far right corner of that toolbar is a button that's labeled New Note, which you can activate or double tap if you want to compose a new note. Now, as I do with most of my presentations and Apple Exchange, our audience is made up of both people who have no vision as well as some who have some residual vision. I will try to intersperse my comments here and there to make sure that if you do have residual vision, that you'll be able to understand what an icon might look like on that screen as you're looking at it. But I will also try to make sure that I identify how you can activate it using the VoiceOver app. And anytime that I use the term activate, you're double clicking with one finger, or double tapping, I should say, with one finger. So when you activate the New Note button, a template screen appears for creating a new note. In the upper left corner is a back button that will take you back to the folder that will contain this note. We'll get more to folders later. In the upper right corner is the Done button that you would need to use when you're finished crafting your note. But the key issue is the space, the big space on the screen. It's where the default focus goes whenever you open up that New Note template. And it's a very large text box or text field that takes up the top half of the screen. It's a very large field where you can input your note. The cursor is waiting for you in the upper left corner of this box for you to either type or dictate the title of the note. Now, the bottom portion of the screen will include the standard iOS or Apple iOS input screen, which has a QWERTY level alpha character keyboard. And in the bottom right corner is where you'll find the dictate button. Now, The first top line where the cursor's waiting for you is pre-formatted as a title. So it's going to end up being bigger font and bolder font, but it's a short title. And that first line, it's important that you recognize that there is a title for each note. And that's important because you need to have that title later to be able to go find the particular note that you're creating. Okay, so I recommend that whatever you put into the first line of your note is something short, simple, clean, because long titles tend to make it more difficult to find those notes later. So after you type or dictate the title of the note, you want to press return, which is at the bottom right corner of that iOS keyboard, right above the dictation microphone. Now, at that point, the cursor is going to drop down to the second line, and if you have residual vision, it's not going to be bolded, okay? It's going to be in a more regular font, if you will. And that's where you can either type or dictate the content of your note. It's pre-formatted in that smaller font, and that's where you can be as creative as you might want or need to be able to do to capture the note of what you want to create. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, yeah, this is great, but how do I actually capture my note? Well, like I was saying, on the bottom half of the screen is a standard iOS QWERTY keyboard. And you can use that to type in the content. We won't go into the details of how you type today. Many of you already know how to do that. By the same token, in that bottom right corner is the keyboard of that keyboard is the button with a microphone icon on it for dictating the content. So if you search around with one finger, you'll find that dictate button, and there'll be simple instructions from VoiceOver to double tap with one finger to begin dictation and to double tap with two fingers to end dictation. Okay, now that's in the lower right corner. In the lower left corner is a button with a smiley face on it. That button will allow you to select any of various emoji icons that you might want to include when you're typing up your note or you're entering your note. Now, in the middle of the screen, below that large text box, but above the input keyboard, there are two rows of additional options of information that you can use when you're trying to record your note. The row that's directly above the keyboard, and it's the same sort of row that's there when you're trying to input text messaging or when you're trying to input any sort of message. It happens to be a row of word prompts that the iPhone software thinks that you might want to use. Now, the word prompts might or might not help you when you're trying to type out different content into the note. But as you begin typing something, typing a word, this line will give you a few options for what that word might be. So if, for example, you typed in CON, it might have the word content pop up. This can help save you time, but it can also be something that is more problematic if you'd rather just type in your letters directly. That particular aspect of the app, whether you're using it here on the Notes app or elsewhere, is a situation where Apple uses AI to determine what else you might be wanting to put in. So it tries to anticipate what your needs might be. You can either use that line or not. It is completely optional. Now, directly above that line, but immediately below the text field for your note, is a row of buttons that's called the editing toolbar. And that editing toolbar provides all sorts of options for you. Now, admittedly, most of those options will likely be more useful to those of you with some residual vision. This is a matter of how do I format the information that is in this note? But not all of them are formatting buttons. Some of them involve some other things, but it's an editing toolbar overall. So I want to go through what that toolbar has on it and the options that you can use with those respective toolbars. I'll describe them from left to right as they appear on the screen. The first one is a format button. It's called Format, and it has an icon on it that looks like the capital A followed by the lowercase a. If you activate that button, it closes the input keyboard and instead replaces it with a formatting pop-up box. Here you can select whether you want the text to be formatted as a title, formatted as a heading, a subheading, the body, etc. Very reminiscent of the Styles font box that you get when you're using Microsoft Word. You can also simply format the text that you're working with as bold or italicized, underlined, or strikeout. There's a button for each one of those. There's also a button for a highlighter and a button that's immediately to the right of it that is a color selection option so that you can change what color you want that highlight to be. There's also buttons underneath of that in the formatting that show bullets or creating bulleted lists, dashes. Instead of a little dot, it's going to be a little hyphen type dash, or even numbers in order to make lists in a numerical order like 1, 2, 3, 4. There are also buttons that are there for indenting or de-indenting. So moving it over just a smidge or moving it back a smidge. Any of the content that you type into the text box will be formatted using whatever selections that you make here until you make a different selection. So for example, if you selected that you wanted it to be bold, then everything that you type in after you've selected bold will be bold. Then if you want to stop bolding, you'd have to tap the bold button again to unbold and then continue typing. So there's a number of different formatting options that are available as a subset of that format button that is up there on the editing toolbar. The next button in the editing toolbar, and remember I'm reading these from left to right, would be a checklist. The icon, if you have residual vision, the icon looks like two dots that are on top of each other with an adjacent line. One of the dots is solid and the other one is open or hollow. When you activate that button, it allows you to then add a checklist to your note. Now think about that. That's a checklist that's got a little dot next to it so that you can use that as a type of to-do list or a shopping list or any other kind of list where you're going to check off, yes, I've done it. So the dots, when you first create these, appear as open dots. And then as you take care of each item on the to-do list or the shopping list or the checklist, when you tap it later, it'll end up having a solid dot next to it. That's one way of keeping track of your to-do list and what pieces you've done or not done. Now, I've actually known a client or two who used that aspect of the tool to create different types of shopping lists for themselves based on the store where they wanted to do their shopping. And personally, I like to use the Reminders app for that sort of thing. But the difference is that on this app, whatever you put into the bulleted list is going to stay there. It's just the bullet that changes. If you tried to use the Reminders app, then each time you check something off, it's going to disappear. But any kind of checklist can go there, okay? Any kind of to-do list. So it can be a way that you can keep track of a to-do list for you. The next icon is a table icon. And when I say a table, I'm thinking of columns and rows. And the icon that's there looks like a 2-column, 6-cell table. So it's got 2 columns and 3 rows with a total of 6 cells. That's what the icon looks like. When you activate that button, it allows you to add a table into the note. And you can think of that as a miniature version of a simple table like you would put into a Microsoft Word document. There are a number of ways that people can use that sort of structure for keeping a note that they might want to keep for themselves. Moving down the line of those items that are in that row of items in the editing toolbar. The next one is an attachment icon. And this one's got a lot of detail in it. The icon itself on that row looks like a paperclip. So it's kind of, for those of you who have vision, it will look like a little paperclip, but VoiceOver will announcement as attachments. Activating that button opens up a lot of different capabilities for being able to add an attachment to your note. When you activate it, you'll get a pop-up context menu. And that context menu will list 7 different options of things that you can attach to this note. That includes things such as a file, a document, a photo, a recording, etc. Those 7 options include the following words: attach a file, record audio, image playground, choose a photo or video, take a photo or video, scan documents, and scan text. Now, some of those might seem self-explanatory, but here's a brief description, because I think not all of them are going to be self-explanatory. So, attach a file. When you select that, it allows you to then attach a file from your Files app or any other recent document that you were accessing to this note. Think of it as the reverse of that, where you're putting your note to that document, or to that file, I should say. But now that you're in the Notes app, you're creating a note and you're attaching to that note the file that you're trying to make sure that the note and the file are together. The next option is to record audio. When you select that, it allows you to record a verbal note that you might dictate. It allows you to add in a recorded conversation, a song, excuse me. Sorry about that, folks. I had a frog in my throat. You could add a song to it. There's any number of different things that you could add as audio in Basis. I have known people in choir settings who wanted to record a particular session, a particular section of their choir practice, and attach a note to it, and they can do that this way. The next option is the image playground. And the image playground happens to be a new component or a new option that was integrated with the Image Playground app that Apple released with iOS 18.2. It only works on some of the newer phones, and it may not be an option on your phone, because if your hardware does not accommodate it, then that option may not be there. I personally have not played with the Image Playground. I know that it's a way that you can basically take an emoji or a memoji and make modifications to it, but I don't know a lot of the details. Another option that's there that's much more commonly used is to choose a photo or a video. Now that option allows you to go into your photo library to select a photo or a video that you may want to attach to this note. So you might have a particular photo that was taken at somebody's graduation, or a particular photo that might be taken at a given picnic, and you want to attach some sort of a note to it. This is a way that you can do that. There's also the option for you to take a photo or a video. When you use that option, the option allows you to use your iPhone's camera in order to take a new photo or a new video. So the one before it goes into your photo or your app, your photo library, to pick something out of that library. The take photo option allows you to take a new one. The next one, scan documents. This one is quite a robust feature, because this option allows you to open up an OCR scanner built into the app that will then scan a document with extensive clarity. Now, it's much better than taking a photograph because scanning the document makes it accessible and readable by VoiceOver, whereas a photograph of a document is not an accessible document. So any document that you want to scan will then be attached to your note. So if you get something in the mail, an important document that you want to scan and make sure that it is readable to you when you come back to the note, by scanning the document instead of taking a photo of the document, you have an accessible version of that document.
Again, we apologize, but the Notes scanner creates a PDF scan of the document, not an OCR scan, which is still better than a photo of the document.
The last option is scan text. It's a little different than scanning a document. This option allows you to then use your iPhone's camera to scan text that can then be inserted into your note. So for example, if you've got a handwritten note that somebody else left you or that you've created and you want to then scan it to put it into this note, it basically uses the camera of the phone, but what it does is takes a quick snapshot view of it and then puts a halo around the particular text that you're trying to include. You have to be able to see that halo to know what it's captured. So if you don't have residual vision, or if residual vision is not sufficient to be able to see that minor halo, then it may not be all that helpful to you. But it is an option, and it can be an option for anyone who does have central residual vision. So before I move beyond attachments, I want to stop there for a second and just do a quick recap. This is where you're attaching something to the note that you're typing out or that you're dictating. And what you're attaching to it can vary from being a file, meaning an actual physical file that you have of information, attaching a recording of some sort of audio activity, whether that's a conversation or whether that's a voice note that you might leave for yourself, or if you will, some sort of a song or musical thing. The image playground, choosing a photo or a video from your library, taking a new photo or a new video, scanning documents in a very robust OCR type of way that is completely accessible, and then scanning text that might be some sort of a handwritten note. Those are all things that you can attach to this note. Another one of the icons that is available in that overall option beyond attachments is handwriting. The icon will look like the tip of a pen. And when you activate that button, it allows you to basically use your fingertip as a writing tool to write into that large input text box. The tool includes something called an ink picker, which is what VoiceOver will announce it as, where you can choose your writing tool from a group of writing and editing options of how your handwriting will appear. That includes such things as a felt tip pen, micropoint pen, a highlighter, a pencil, an eraser, a ruler, and a color selector so that you can choose what color you want whatever you're going to be writing. There's even an add button that allows you to add in a sticker or add in text that you might type, or add in a signature if you've got a pre-saved signature. And you can also add in a pre-built shape like a circle or a square or a cone, something of that nature. Again, this is in all likelihood something that would be of much more use to someone with residual vision, but the options are there. And I never know who our attendees are and whether or not they have residual vision or not. So I make sure that I go through all of the available options. Now on my screen, there's also another option in that row that is called the writing tool. That writing tool has an icon on it that looks like the ChatGPT logo. And that's because ChatGPT will integrate into the Notes app. And it may only exist on your phone. I believe it only exists if you have ChatGPT actually loaded or added to your phone. Activating it opens up a series of buttons on the bottom of the screen, kind of like the formatting button changed the input screen to include a bunch of other buttons for formatting. Well, this opens up a bunch of writing tool buttons that are used by ChatGPT, where you can use it to compose a note, make changes to the note, proofread, rewrite, select the tone, whether you want it to be friendly or professional or concise, create a summary, identify key points, create a list, create a table, or compose. Personally, this is a bit of overkill. It adds additional complications. But if you are someone who loves to use ChatGPT as an AI assistant when you're writing, you have the option that's available. Now, the last button on that toolbar is an X. It's labeled by VoiceOver as hide the toolbar. And when you activate that button, it ends up eliminating or hiding that editing toolbar. So again, I'm going to stop here for a minute and just recap that the top of the screen is a large text box for actually inputting notes. The bottom portion of the screen is a standard iOS input keyboard that includes a dictate button down in the lower right corner. And at the same time, in between that large box at the top where you're inputting the note and the bottom portion of the screen where the QWERTY keyboard is for you to type in the note, there are two rows. Working from the bottom up, the row that's right above the input keyboard is, if you will, the prompt row that provides words that would be prompts for trying to help you finish words that you may have started to type. And then the row that's above that happens to be the editing toolbar. And the editing toolbar is where you find a bunch of very robust tools that include the ability to format material that you're putting into the note, to create a checklist style for putting able to put the data into or the note into a checklist format, a table icon that will arrange things in columns and rows, to create or identify attachments that you want to include with your note, where you can attach a file, an audio recording, an image playground, choosing photos or taking photos, scanning documents, which is a really big one for us because of its accessibility components, and then scanning text. Another one of the buttons that are in that editing row is the handwriting button, and then the writing tool, and then the hide toolbar. So you've got a lot of different tools that are there for you to be able to be creative about making your notes. But creating notes is one thing. Finding them later and being able to read them is quite another thing altogether. And luckily, this app goes a long way towards being able to help you organize your notes. The Notes app uses folders. Notes are held and maintained in folders, and the folders can be either stored on the iCloud, where they can be accessed from any device that is linked to your Apple ID, or on your phone or your iPad device individually. Recognize that if you save the folder to the iCloud, it is accessible from both or any of your different devices that are on your Apple ID. If you save it only on one, then it's only going to be retrievable on one. So they're kept locally on the device. In addition, notes can be associated with any email account that is reachable from your device. So for example, Outlook as an application tends to have a notes component that you can create in Outlook, and therefore it will feed notes into the Notes app. Folders can be stored in any of these places, and folders can act as groupings of the notes around a similar theme. So for example, office notes, home notes, family notes, school notes, project notes. You can actually use this app to keep track of different things that need to be done on different projects. So whether you're planning a big party or you've got some sort of a project that you're dealing with, that's at home where you're trying to do some do-it-yourself DIY type of things, and you've got a list of things you want to do, prepare for it, you can set up a set of notes for yourself to do any of those things. Now, on any of the pages of notes, the back button that's in the upper left corner will be read aloud as folders. And that button will take you back to a list of all of your existing folders. And on this master list of folders, the heading at the top of the page will be the word folders. In the bottom left corner is a button on the toolbar that's entitled New Folder. If you activate that button, you're creating a new folder. At first, you'll get a small pop-up box or a context menu that'll get you to choose where you want this folder to be created, on your iPhone or your iPad, if you will, standalone on your device, or to be created in the cloud on iCloud. You have to select and then activate whichever of those options you want to use. But once you make that selection, you'll get a new folder template that pops up. And that's where you can add the title of your new folder at the top. Now, if all you want to do is create a simple folder of new items, that's fine. Once you do, type in the name of that folder, then the Done button is in the upper right corner, and voila, you have a new folder. However, immediately below that title input field is a button that lets you make a new folder into a, quote, smart folder. Now, a smart folder allows you to organize your notes using tags or other filters. If you select that button, you'll get a list of different filter options that includes an array of different ways to organize your notes and folders. This uses logic switches such as any or all, off or include or exclude to generate a new folder of all of your notes that meet those definitional logic switches. At the top is a selector switch that allows you to include notes matching either all of the following or any of the following filters. And here's a list of the filter options that are available. And for each one of these, you can set them to be either off, to be included, or to be excluded. These options include tags, created, edited, checklists, attachments, folders, quick notes, pinned notes, and locked. Again, each one of those, you can throw a switch, or you can set the switch for them to either be off or include or exclude. In essence, you're able to use this set of switches to create a new folder that aggregates together multiple notes into logical groupings of your choosing. For some people, that's way overkill. For others, it's a way for them to be able to keep everything organized. Now, viewing and manipulating notes. When you're viewing a particular folder, you have options for how you want to view or review them. In the upper right corner, there's a folder actions button. If you have residual vision, it's going to look like a circle with the 3-dot ellipsis in the middle of that circle. If you double tap that button, it will display options for you to then choose whether you want to view your notes as a gallery, which is, if you will, side-by-side squares in kind of a square or grid format instead of a list format, where you can select notes or where you can view the attachments. When you view it as a gallery, again, it converts it from a vertical listing into a gallery of icons. It's more of a visual display preference. So for a VoiceOver user, that may not be all that different for you because you're still going to be able to move through the gallery by swiping right like you would if you were going through a list. And if you're using the single finger search function or search method, you'll get through the gallery just like you would through the listing. You can select notes, and that allows you to select multiple notes in case you want to move them or send them someplace else or delete them, etc. Viewing the attachments simply allows you to access and view any of the attachments that were appended to any of the notes. Now, each folder will have a heading that you create when you create the initial folder. Swiping right from there will open a search box that will allow you to type or dictate a search for a particular keyword. By default, the notes within a folder are displayed in descending order by date, with the most current notes at the top. However, as you may have heard me mention pinned notes earlier, notes can be pinned so that they appear at the top of your list of notes. So if you've got a list of something that you really want to see all the time at the top of the list, it's best to pin them. Older notes are given additional sorting headings by month and by year. Okay, so if you started using the Notes app back in 2023, it might group all of the 2023s and then 2024s, and now in 2025, it'll go month by month by month. As you move through the folder of notes with either the swiping gestures or using the drag and hunt method, VoiceOver will read the title and other pertinent information related to the note as you touch it. So when it was last updated. Once you select a note, VoiceOver will read that title, the date that it was last modified, whether there are any attachments to that note, and what folder that note is being kept in. You will also hear the infamous actions available comment at the end of whatever VoiceOver says. And those options, when you swipe through them, they include pin the note, delete the note, move the note, lock or unlock the note, drag the item, and activate it, which is the default. As I noted before, pinning the note moves it to the top of the list, ahead of the chronological descending order. Deleting the note will give you the ability to delete it. Moving the note allows you to move it to another folder, for example. Locking and unlocking. Notes can be locked with a passcode or with Face ID or Touch ID. It allows you to either create or remove the lock on that note. Drag the item will allow you to drag it and its contents to another location. And activate is the same as a simple double tap in order to open the note for further reading and other activities. So in summary, Notes app allows you to take and keep notes for yourself in a fairly handy manner, but it's a much more sophisticated manner than it originally started. You can type those notes, you can dictate them, or you can handwrite them. You can make them simple, or you can make them fancy. You can make them neat and tidy with different types of formats. So if you have residual vision and you want to use that as a way of organizing the note that you take it, you can do that. You can create to-do lists, and it'll help you manage your tasks of things that need to be taken care of. You can include a wealth of different attachments, everything from photos to videos to scanned documents and scanned text. And with the ability to scan an OCR type of scanning of a document, optical character recognition, whatever you scan in that manner is fully accessible, allowing you to be able to read everything that's in that note or in that document that you've scanned. And the Notes app will automatically keep track of your notes by date, and you can manage them in a file folder system of your own making. And there's a lot of versatility available with how you can create that folder system. So it's a very robust tool that you can use to manage many aspects of your life. Okay, so we are at 1:45. I want to make sure that I give people a chance to ask questions. So I'm going to go through the process of unmuting folks, or feel free to raise your hand. I'll repeat, if you want to raise your hand to ask a question on a phone, use *9. On a PC, use Alt-Y. On a Mac, Option Y. And on a smartphone or tablet, look for the reactions button in the bottom middle of your display, and you'll get raising your hand as one of the top options. So please feel free to go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question. Don't be bashful. Nobody has any questions? Each of you has the ability to unmute yourself, and you can do that by using *6, Alt-A on a PC, Command-Shift-A on a Mac, or using the microphone button in the lower left corner.
Eric,
Anyone?
can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Natalie.
How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Everybody was all quiet, so I just thought I would ask the question that drives me crazy about notes with, and I do have residual sight, but the fact that you cannot blow up the the note that you're trying to read. You know, I can still read stuff on my phone or my iPad or whatever if I, expand it and I can see it. And Apple does not have the ability to expand a note. Is there any workarounds on such a thing?
There is, since you mentioned that you have residual vision, are you using Zoom on your iPhone or iPad?
I
And
am
I don't mean the Zoom app. I'm
right
talking about the Zoom function,
zooming
which
in. Yeah, that's
allows
when
you
I
to zoom
say
in.
when I say blow up, I'm blow up a picture, blow up a screen, blow up. A lot of screens can't be blown up.
Right.
Um, but and notes being one of them.
Okay, so one of the things that I think what you're getting at is that you can't use two fingers and do a reverse pinch to make it bigger.
Thank
Um,
you. Yes.
so a pinch brings the thumb and finger together, making it
Yeah.
smaller, and a reverse pinch makes it bigger.
Yes.
That won't typically work. But if you use the zoom function, the way the zoom, if zoom has been turned on, you can use a three-finger double tap that will cause whatever is on the screen to get larger using the zoom function. And that in and of itself is expandable and changeable from a zooming standpoint. So you may want to consider using the zoom function. I
Oh,
don't recommend that for those who do not have residual vision, but for those who do, and you use the zoom function, it'll take anything that's on your screen and make it bigger.
and that was three fingers and a
Three finger double tap. But
three
before
finger
you can
double.
do that, right, you have to go into accessibility options. So you go into settings, accessibility, and then underneath the voiceover will be the option to turn on Zoom. And if you turn on Zoom, it will walk you through how to do the settings. But the way to do it on demand is a three-finger double tap.
Wonderful. See, little bits of information like this are just priceless to me. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Anyone else have a question today?
Hello. Okay, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, you go first, please.
Hey,
Jen.
hi, this is Shin. I have a question. Maybe it's not related, not particular for the notes, but what I was trying to do is I was trying to copy this Zoom link from my church, right, to the notes. I want to create a note, right? So in the future, I want to go this Zoom link. Instead of find the email, I will go to this note. And then I was trying to copy this Zoom link. It's very long. And I use the voice over, right? And then when I copy this Zoom link, I can only copy a part of the Zoom link and then paste over to this note. I don't know how can select the entire Zoom link text under.
Shin, that's a very good question. If you have residual vision, normally when you are trying to copy something like that, there is a whatever is being identified or highlighted it's highlighted with a different color, and at the beginning of the note there will be
Hello,
a vertical bar with a dot at the
how are
top,
you?
and at the end of the note there will be a vertical bar with a dot at the bottom. So whatever is between those two things is what's going to be copied. So if you have enough residual vision to see that, then you can touch the screen where that vertical dot is and move it to the beginning and the ending. Now, quite frankly, that is going to require some residual vision to do that.
I cannot see that.
Okay. And I would hesitate without actually seeing what you're doing firsthand and how you're doing it. I don't know the answer of why it only copied part of it instead of copying the entire link. But I love the idea where you're trying to create a note for the Apple Exchange link, and that way you can come back to it all the time. I would save the email, and that way whenever you get the email from us, or save Kathy's monthly email and make sure that you can come back to that, because that's where the links are going to be held.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I mean, because I was trying to save the link from my church, right? They had a Bible study Zoom, so I thought it's a long link. So I thought, maybe I want to copy this link, create the notes, right, in this notes app, and but I only can copy a part of. I mean, only copy a part of that Zoom link.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my struggling. So.
And I understand that. I just without watching you do it, I can't completely envision, if you will, what it is that's happening that's going wrong, to be able to tell you what to do differently.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for just try to help
You're
me
welcome.
try.
You're welcome. Gloria, I think you started to have a question too. Are you still there, Gloria?
I think I heard something, somebody left. I don't know if I heard or not.
I thought it was Gloria, but I may be wrong. Anyone else have a question today? That's okay. No command performances here. So if you do have a question, great. If you don't worry about it. Thank you all very much for joining us today for the July edition, our episode, if you will, of the Notes app of Apple Exchange, where we talked about the Notes app. And if you
This
would
is
like
Karen.
to have a recording of today's conversation sent to you, please just let us know and we can send you a link to the recording.
This is Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. I would like the recording, please, because I don't really use the app sparingly because it's just kind of overwhelming to me because there's so much stuff in it and I just shy away from it. But the way you explained everything made it a little less scary.
I'm happy to hear you say that, because
Yeah.
we try to take it and make it to where it's as usable for our clients as possible. And if it's just a matter of me talking about it in a certain way, that's great.
Because it's like I get in there and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much going on. I said, just too much. It's just too much. And I don't like it because it's just too much. But
Got it. Fair
it
enough.
does seem like it has some real workable and real usable functions.
Yes, it does. It's
So
got a lot of versatility built into it, a lot of sophistication, but it can also be very simple.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. And with the reminders, I use the reminders too for notes. I don't do like any fancy reminders. I do just simple list.
Okay.
And I have like a shopping list. And then when I tap on stuff, because it's like incomplete, and when you tap on it, it
It
goes to the bottom
disappears.
as well. It can if you say hide complete. Otherwise, it'll go to the bottom as completed.
Okay.
So you can
Okay.
show or hide the completed one.
Right. Right. That's true.
Yeah, so that's what I use it for. I keep it like that. And that
Okay.
when I go back to the store, because I keep it like for recurring items. And before I go back to the
Exactly.
store, I tap on all the completed ones and it go right back up to the top.
And that's a perfect idea for things like milk, bread, and eggs, and things that you're going to routinely get all the
Yep.
time at the grocery.
Mm-hmm.
Because then all you have to do is come back into the app and you can unhide it to add it back to the list.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't have mine on hidden at all, but it just goes to the bottom. So
Right.
I could hear it when I'm swiping, or a sighted person, I guess, can see it. Because I was so
Exactly.
confused in the beginning when I first started using it when it was hidden. I was like, well, where'd all my stuff go? I know I didn't delete it.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a minute, and that was a few years ago. And then I found that it was actually hidden, and I had
Right.
to unhide it. So I
Okay.
just want to point that out. But thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for
Oh, my
joining
name
us
is Karen
today.
Rose. Can you send me the
Yes, Karen, I made a note of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Shin again. I would like to receive the recording as well, Eric.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I missed a lot of part of for today's section, but in the past when I used the note, I always afraid about where I can find my old notes. But it looks like there's pretty simple way to get notes organized and then come back to identify the one I need, right? So
Exactly.
okay, that's very good to know.
Any other questions today, folks?
Hey, Eric, it's Natalie again.
Uh-huh.
Is there a way to get access to possibly some other tech talks you've done in the past?
We're actually working on that. We're
Okay.
trying to figure out a way to take several of the ones that I've been doing over the last, let's say, 6 months to a year kind of thing, and putting those out on our website. But if there's a particular one that you've already, or that you have an interest in that you want to listen to,
Yep.
you can email us and let us know, and we can try to send you a link to that recording. The recordings are really large, so we're not actually sending you the recording. We're sending you a link so that you can access the recording.
Okay. That's perfect. That's perfect. Great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Eric.
Hi.
Hi, it's Tim Walsh. I just want to second that emotion. This is the first one of your presentations I've participated in, and I really appreciate it and want to thank you. And I would love to see what else that you've done. I think it'd be really helpful.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you for
very
those
much.
kind words. And like I said, we're working on that to try to make it to where those recordings might be more accessible to those who are just joining us and may want to go back and look at some of the other ones.
Fantastic.
And be sure to join us next month. We have one of these. It's always on the second Thursday of each month, and it's at 1 o'clock Central.
And I kind of have to juggle with work. This is certainly more interesting than what I'm supposed to be working on right now. Very much appreciate it.
You're quite welcome, and I appreciate those kind words. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and end the call and the recording. Thank you very much for coming out and joining us for this month's episode.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.